was once a king called Shahryar. He was a happy man, until one day he came home and heard that his wife was in love with one of his servants. Put them both in prison, said the king angrily.
But he soon became lonely. Then he had an idea. Find me a new wife every day, he told his vizier, his chief servant. Then, the morning after our wedding, put her in prison before she can stop loving me.
Every day, for 3 terrible years, the poor vizier obeyed the king's order. What can I do? I can't disobey him. I don't want to go to the prison, said the vizier to Scheherazade, his daughter.
Father, give me to the king tomorrow, said Scheherazade. Don't worry about me. I got a plan. The next day, Scheherazade became the king's wife. That night, Scheherazade asked the king, Husband, do you like stories?
Of course, answered the king. Then I'll tell you one, said Scheherazade. Scheherazade was clever. She didn't finish the story that night. She stopped it when the morning sun began to shine through the window.
You must finish the story tonight, Scheherazade, said the king. I want to hear the end. After that, Scheherazade began a new story every night. And each morning the king said, You must finish it tonight, Scheherazade. I want to hear the end. And here are 3 of those stories.
Long ago, a man called Mustafa lived in China. He worked very hard while his son Aladdin played in the streets all day. Then Mustafa died. One day a stranger spoke to Aladdin. I'm your uncle, said the man. Mustafa was my brother, but this wasn't true. The stranger wasn't Aladdin's uncle. He was a bad magician. Aladdin took the stranger home. Mustafa never spoke about a brother. Aladdin's mother said to the stranger, I traveled around for 40 years, said the magician. He told them about his adventures in other countries, and tomorrow I'm going to show you something wonderful, Aladdin, he said.
The next day, he took Aladdin a long way from the city. Make a fire, said the magician. His voice was cold and hard, and Aladdin was afraid. The magician dropped something on the fire. A big flat stone appeared by magic.
Move the stone. The magician ordered. There are steps under it. Go down the steps at the bottom of the steps. You will find wall with hole in it. There's a lamp in the hole. Bring it to me. It was a magic lamp, but the magician was afraid to look for it himself.
Wear this, said the magician. He put a ring on Aladdin's finger. Aladdin moved the stone and went down the steps. He found the lamp and started to climb back up the steps. The magician was at the top of the steps. When the boy gave me the lamp, he said to himself, I'm going to shoot him in the hole.
Aladdin heard him. Help me climb up, cried Aladdin. Then you can have the lamp. Give it to me now. The magician shouted. I must have it. No, said Aladdin. The magician got very angry. By magic, he moved the big flat stone across the hole and flew far away to another country.
Help, shouted Aladdin, but nobody came. He looked at the ring on his finger. It's very dirty, he thought. He wrote it, and suddenly a genie appeared. I'm the genie of the ring, he said. Can I help you? Take me home, said Aladdin.
And in a moment, he was home. He told his mother the story and showed her the lamp. It is dirty, they say, and they began to rub it. another genie appeared, much bigger than the genie of the ring. I'm the genie of the lamp, he said. What can I do for you? Aladdin said, bring us some food.
The genie disappeared, then came back with plates of food. Wonderful, cried Aladdin. At first everything was wonderful, but some Aladdin's mother said, go and buy that lamp and write in the wonderful. We were happy without their magic. We can be happy with magic again.
5 years passed. Then one day he saw the king's daughter and immediately fell in love with her. He hurried home to get the magic lamp and magic ring out of the garden. He rubbed the lamp. Bring me some jewels, he told the genie of the lamp. By magic a plate of shining jewels appeared.
Aladdin sent his mother to the place with the jewels. These are from my son, Aladdin, she told the king. He wants to marry your daughter. What wonderful jewels, thought the king. He was a greedy man. Your son must send me more jewels, he said. Then he can marry my daughter.
With the genie's help, Aladdin sent more plates of jewels to the palace. Now the king was happy. Aladdin asked the genie to give him a palace. Then Aladdin married the princess. He kept the lamp in the palace, but he didn't tell the princess that it was a magic lamp.
The bad magician heard about the wonderful palace of Princess Aladdin and his wife. That boy has got my lamp and I want it, he thought. The next morning he stood outside the palace with a box of new lamps. New lamps for all, he cried. People brought him their old lamps and he gave them new ones.
When the princess heard about this, she thought to herself, I give him Aladdin's lamp. It's very old and dirty. She took it to the magician. As soon as the magician had the magic lamp, he rubbed it and the genie appeared. Takes Aladdin palace to Africa and take me there too, ordered the magician.
Aladdin came home. He found his wife and his palace gone. This is the magician's work, he said. Tired and unhappy, he sat down by the river and cried. He began to rub his eyes with his hand and rubbed the magic ring. The genie appeared. Bring back my wife and palace, cried Aladdin. Only the genie of the lamp can do that, said the genie.
Then take me to my wife, said Aladdin. Suddenly he was in Africa, outside his palace. The princess looked out the window and saw Aladdin. She told him about the lamp. The magician carries it everywhere, she said. Then listen, said Aladdin.
That evening the princess put something in the magician's ring. Soon he was asleep. The princess quickly got the lamp and Aladdin rubbed it. The genie appeared. Take us out and our palace back to China, but leave the magician here, ordered Aladdin.
Before an eye could open and close, Aladdin and his princess flew back to China in their palace, and there they lived happily together for many, many years.
Qasim and Ali Baba were brothers. Qasim was rich and had a shop. Ali was poor. He could cut to shell. One day, in the forest, Ali heard horses and climbed into a tree. Moments later, he saw 40 men on horses. Thieves, they thought.
The thieves stopped near a big rock. One called, "Open sesame," and the big rock moved. There was a cave behind it, and the thieves carried bags
of money into the cave. When they came out, one cried, "Shut, Sesame!" The big rock moved back, and the thieves went away. Ali climbed down and went to the rock. "Open, Sesame!" he called.
The rock moved away, and Ali went into the cave. He wasn't greedy. He took a small bag of gold coins, then went outside again. "Shut, Sesame!" he called it, and the rock moved back.
He took the bag of coins home to his wife, Morgiana. "We can count them all. There are too many," she said. "We must weigh them."
She went to Kasim's shop for some skills. What's Morgiana going to wear on these skills? Thought Kasim's wife. I must find out. Kasim's wife has an idea. She quickly wrote a little oil on the scales.
Morgiana weighed the coins on the scales, then gave the scales back to Kasim's wife. But she didn't notice something. One of the gold coins was stuck on the bottom of the scales.
That night, Kasim's wife told him about Morgiana's gold coin. The next day, Kasim went to see Ellie. "Where did you get the gold coins?" asked Kasim. At first, Ellie didn't answer, but then he told Kasim about the cave.
Kasim was a greedy man. He went to the cave with 10 empty bags. "Open, Sesame!" he cried, and the rock moved. Kasim went inside and said, "Shut, Sesame!" He didn't want anyone to see him. He quickly filled his 10 bags with gold coins and took them to the cave door.
"Open, rock!" shouted Kasim. "Open! Oh, what's the word?" Kasim couldn't remember, so he couldn't open the cave again. Later, the thieves came back to the cave and found Kasim. They tied him up and pushed him into a barrel. "We can take him somewhere later," they said. Then they went away again.
When Kasim didn't come home that night, his wife went to see Ellie. "Ellie," she said, "do you know where Kasim is?" Ellie went to the cave and found his brother, but he couldn't get him out of the barrel. "I must take him home and cut him out," he thought.
Ali began to push the barrel back to his house, but it was heavy because his brother was a big man. He met a man in the forest and asked, "Can you help me, please?" "Yes, of course," said the man. The two men pushed the barrel to Ali's home, and Ali quickly cut his brother out of the barrel.
Later, the thieves went back to the cave. "Someone took the barrel," said one. "We must find him." They talked to many people and found the man who helped Ali in the forest.
"I have to push a barrel to a house in the town," the man told them. He told them where Ali's house was. That night, a man arrived at Ali's house with 20 donkeys. Each donkey carried 2 big oil jars on its back. But there was only oil in 1 jar. There were thieves in the other 39 jars.
"I need somewhere to stay tonight," said the man. "Put your donkey in my garden and stay here," said Ali. After the man and Ali went to bed, Morgiana's lamp went out. "My lamp needs more oil," she thought as she remembered the oil jars in the garden. She went to a jar. "Is it time?" asked a voice from inside the jar. Morgiana was very surprised. There was somebody in the oil jar. She said so weakly. "No," she said in a low voice. She stopped by the next jar. At each jar, the voice asked some question. "No," answered Morgiana.
At the last jar, there was no voice. Morgiana found only oil in it. "The thief wants to catch us," she thought. She carried the oil jar to the kitchen. She put the jar on the kitchen fire to make the oil hot. Then she went outside again. She poured a little hot oil into each jar in the garden.
Each time the thief in the car shouted and jumped out of his car and ran away. None of the thieves saw Morgana in the darkness. They thought that the oil arrived by magic.
When all the thieves were gone, Morgiana put the empty jar back in the garden. But he kept some hot oil from it. Then he hid behind one of the jars. Later, the four thieves got up from his bed in the house and came outside. It's the time, he said quickly, to the first jar.
He looked inside all the other jars. "This is magic," he cried. "Ali Baba changed my men into oil." Ali Baba looked out of his window, and the thief jumped into the empty jar. Morgiana quickly poured some hot oil into the jar, and the thief jumped out and ran away. None of them ever returned, but went to live far away. Ali and Morgiana lived happily for many years. They weren't greedy. They went to the cave only once a year to say, "Open sesame."
There was once a poor old fisherman. Every day he went down to the sea to catch fish. One day he pulled his fishing net from the water and said, "What's this?"
King Solomon died 500 years before I was born, thought the fisherman. He opened the bottle and looked inside. "It's empty," he said. He shook it, but nothing fell out.
Suddenly, blue smoke came out of the bottle and made an enormous shape. A genie!" cried the fisherman. The genie was angry. "Free at last!" he shouted. "Who are you, old man?" began the fisherman.
"It doesn't matter," said the genie. "I don't like you." "Who put you in the bottle?" asked the fisherman. "King Solomon," said the genie. "He and I didn't agree about something, so he put me in that bottle and threw me into the sea. I lived in that bottle for 500 years. The genie was angry. The fisherman became very frightened.
He thought quickly. "Can I ask you a question?" he said. "What is it?" shouted the genie. "You are as a big mountain," said the fisherman. "How did you get into a small bottle? It's impossible." "Impossible?" said the angry genie. "Look, I'll show you." The fisherman watched. The genie became smaller and smaller. At last, he disappeared back into the bottle.
The fisherman quickly put the top back on the bottle and threw it into the sea. "Now you can stay there for another 500 years, he said, laughing. Scheherazade told her stories to the king for 1001 nights, and the king soon found that he loved her very much and didn't want to put her in prison. He wanted her to be his wife forever. Scheherazade learned to love him too. They had children and lived happily for many, many years.
Scheherazade told his stories to the king for 1001 nights, and the king soon found that he loved her very much and didn't want to put her in prison. He wanted her to be his wife forever. Scheherazade learned to love him too. They had children and lived happily for many, many years.